Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's masterclass. Today, we're going to be diving into a critical topic that's shaping leadership in this 21st century. It's about relevance. And our topic today is on relevance through reinvention. We're here because the world, as you know, is changing faster than ever before. Technology is reshaping industries overnight. Longevity means careers have extended by decades, and relevance isn't something you earn, it's something you build again and again. And in this topic today, this session, it's a larger part of an initiative that was inspired by Skills Future Singapore, which has identified 5 key skills for staying relevant in today's world. So as you can see on the screen, the staying relevant 5 skills are on the right-hand side. We've already covered the other 11 skills under those 2 clusters, thinking critically and interacting with others. Today, we're moving into this third and final cluster, staying relevant, but this is a huge topic. And you'll find that not only do we cover these 5 key skills inadvertently, those skills, by the way, adaptability, digital fluency, global perspective, learning agility, and self management. Now, as I said, we don't address those necessarily directly, but we weave these through everything that we discussed today, as well as across the entire Staying Relevant series. And there's going to be 4 masterclasses in this series. We'll talk a little bit about that in just a second. As you know, today we're together for the next 90 minutes. We're going to explore how leaders, in particular in this case, um, just like you, right, can navigate this new reality with clarity, some confidence, as well as a lot of courage. This is the first of 4 masterclasses I just said in this Staying Relevant series. So um, if we look at the other 3, you'll see that the next masterclass coming up, and that's in September. So we do these every quarter. We do a masterclass. The next one coming up is future proofing your organization. For me, this is the topic of the moment. Companies, HR really need to be on top of this topic, not only you as a leader, but your organization. And then the third masterclass in the series is called Preparing for the Longevity Dividend. We're really taking a deeper dive into the talent systems for the workplace, for a workplace, if you like, that works into its 70s. All right, so at the moment, we're not keeping up. Our retirement age is around 65, 67, but already people are working to their 70 and beyond. As we progress through the remainder of this decade and the next, people are going to be moving towards their 80s. And so this is a really important topic. And then we round out the 4th masterclass way out in March 2026. It's called From Retirees to Revolvers, and looking at tapping into what is proposed to be a $15 trillion longevity economy. And what we need to be thinking about as leaders, what companies need to be thinking about with their products and their services, and how they can tap in to this aging demographic. All right, so each session, as you probably imagine, is going to build on the previous, and we give you practical frameworks, we give you tools and insights to really stay ahead of the change, not just to survive, but to thrive, as the saying goes. And while this is a long and detailed exploration of relevance, we truly feel that the importance of this subject warrants the effort. So we're going to be running a live workshop in Singapore come mid-August. So if you're interested, please connect with us and we'll give you some more details after this masterclass. All right. So before we dive headlong into our topic, please just allow me for a moment to share something as part of our commitment to helping you grow both personally and professionally. I'm extremely excited to be able to share that we're launching at the beginning of July our new referral program. I'm extremely proud of this program because we've been able to partner with a group who have enabled us to make this really special offer. It's designed to reward you for sharing your insights and the tools that you're going to gain today, as well as through other programs that you attend in our network. But you're going to benefit your colleague by referring them, your friends, your peers, whoever they may be, as well as you will benefit yourself. Um, there'll be more about it as we go through this program. I don't want to give too much away, but as you can see by the heading on this slide, we're talking about refer a friend, earn a dream vacation. So there's a teaser for you. You can go to the landing page if you really want to. You can take a screen capture of the link at the bottom of the screen, and you'll understand a little bit more about what it's all about. But it's our brand new referral program. All right. So with that said, let's get started, because relevance isn't just about standing still. It's about moving forward with intention. So let's have a look at today's session, how it's structured. We have 6 general topics, if you like, the opening and the framing where we are at the moment. We begin with a short story because this journey starts with self-reflection, and you'll hear about Jonathan, a seasoned executive who was told that he wasn't evolving fast enough. Sound familiar? Probably, because this question will frame the central question we're all facing. How do we stay relevant when everything around us keeps changing? And then we'll start to look at some of the reasons for this topic of relevance. The first, as you can probably imagine, technology. The second, longevity. And how these 2 forces are reshaping leadership today. Now, there's more than 2 forces. However, that's what we're going to be primarily focused on today, as well as a third thing, talking about mindset, where, from a technology point of view, we have AI, automation, digital transformation, and what they mean for your role as a leader. Then we have longevity, where we're living longer, we're working longer, and redefining our career paths. Now, these 2 aren't separate trends, they're connected. Even though you may not see it, by the end of today, hopefully you will. And together they demand a new kind of leadership. The next thing we're going to talk about is the reinvention mindset. Relevance is something that you can't lose. It's something you build. You build it again and again, as I've already said. Now, in this section, or this portion of today, we're going to shift from fear to opportunity. We're going to talk about why reinvention isn't just for those in crisis, but it's for those who lead intentionally. And we're also going to talk about flexibility across companies, careers, industries. Even becoming an entrepreneur can be seen as a strength, not a setback. And then in the 4th portion, the 4th section, we're going to move into the how, giving you the frameworks that really work. This is where we move from the theory, if you like, to the practice. And we're going to walk you through several powerful models. We're going to show you the reinvention spiral, which is for your cycle for lifelong growth. We're going to probably introduce a couple of old favorites in many cases, the learning loop using the PDCA continuous improvement methodology. We're going to talk about this 70-20-10 model, where real learning happens in each of those 3 areas. And then we're going to talk about the skill stack strategy, where we look at both depth as well as adaptability. Now, these frameworks aren't just tools. They're scaffolding for your future-proof leadership. So I truly hope you're still with us once we get to that point. And then you'll see the 5th area is what we call your personal reinvention plan, where we give you the opportunity to sit in the box seat and take the wheel. How do you reinvent yourself? And then the final session is where we reflect, Where are you now? What version of yourself do you want to become next? And then how do you take one small step, excuse me, that can, you know, be taken in the next 30, 60, 90 days, and we'll leave you with a practical plan that is not just about insight, right? As you'll probably hear me say a lot during today, because staying relevant doesn't happen just by accident. It happens by design. All right, so we close out, we wrap up with a few key reflections, a call to action, of course, as usual, and an invitation to continue the journey. All right, so with that said, if you're ready, I remembered one thing. Hopefully everyone who registered has received the companion ebook. Now, the title of the ebook was The Long Road. It's very aptly named because this relevance journey is a long road. We're living longer. We have to learn how to adapt and how to stay relevant. All right. So if you've received the ebook, I truly hope you went through it. It's written in the form of a leadership fable, just to make it a little bit more storyline rather than just statistic and facts. It's a leadership fable about staying relevant in a world that won't stand still. So the next slide may sound a little bit familiar. If not, if you haven't received the ebook, it won't sound familiar. If you haven't got the ebook, please connect with us. You'll see the link on the bottom of the slide, bottom of the screen. Please let us know that you didn't get the ebook. We'll send you a copy immediately. It's really well worth going through because it does set the premise of everything we're going to be talking about today and into the future. All right, so now with that said, let's have a look at the journey we're on. Remember, we're talking from a perspective of you as a leader. And I want to start with a short story. Jonathan, if you read the ebook, you'll know Jonathan was the hero in the ebook. Jonathan was a respected leader, 20 years in his field, known for his execution and the results that he was able to achieve. And then all of a sudden, one day, he's told that he wasn't evolving fast enough. And he realized something unsettling. He didn't know who he was without his job title. And this is an area that we all have to come to terms with as we go forward. So it probably sounds a little bit familiar. It's just an introduction, a teaser for you to get you thinking, to get you reflecting back on that ebook, but more importantly, to get your head in the game. You as the leader, we're going to be talking about relevance, right, and about reinvention for you as the leader moving forward. Okay, so if that sounds familiar for you, that little introduction, I wonder how many of you would raise your hand if you've ever felt like Jonathan, even just for a moment, right? I'm sure the majority of you probably are smiling and have your hand up if you were tempted to put it up. The reality is you're not alone. Many, many people today, particularly the older generation who are still in the leadership roles, are feeling challenged by the pace of change and looking at this big question. All right. So the big question really for me and the research that I and our team are doing is around this whole topic of staying relevant. That's why I'm so excited about it. Today we need to be able to focus on this really critical question. How do we stay relevant as a leader in a world that just won't stand still? Or if you want to read the question on the screen, how do we stay relevant in a world of accelerating change and lengthening lives? Leadership isn't just about managing today. It's about preparing for tomorrow. And tomorrow is coming faster than ever before. But here's the challenge. Our personal bias often holds us back. We cling to what worked yesterday. We resist change because it feels safer to stay where we are. And yet, the best leaders aren't those who avoid the discomfort. They're the ones who lean into it. They lean into it with curiosity, courage, and with a degree of clarity. So let's start with that acknowledgement, that truth, that staying relevant isn't about skills. Technology changes skills faster than ever before. I often am told and quote this myself that when I did my commencement into leadership, the skills I learned up until that point stood fast for 30 odd years. Fast forward to today, and we're lucky to be able to use the skills that we acquire today for 2 to 3 years in advance. And that's likely to become shorter and shorter. Now, on top of that, we're living longer than ever before, and staying relevant, therefore, often means redefining who we are, not just what we do. This is a really important point. Our identity, right? Who we are is not just what we do. Hence, it's about a mindset shift. It's about how you see yourself, your future, your impact. And because today, several forces are reshaping everything, we've already introduced them, but we're going to go through them a little bit deeper now. All right, starting with the first one, which is changing our environment faster than ever before. As you can probably already guess, we're going to look first at technology. All right, I'm just going to have a quick drink. All right, so AI, automation, machine learning, they're not just coming soon, they're already here. We all know that. And they're changing the game for you, for your team, for your organization. So let's explore what it really means and how you can lead through this. That's the all important part, right? So allow me to try and paint a quick scenario for you, one that might resonate with you personally, and if not with you, with somebody you most likely know. Imagine you're a seasoned executive. You've built a reputation for delivering results, but recently you've noticed something a little bit unsettling. Your direct reports are starting to ask questions that you no longer have the answer to. Projects are moving faster than ever, but your team seems more stressed and no longer productive. And when you look around at the sector that you're in, the other divisions of the company, perhaps the industry you're in, you see younger colleagues leading the initiatives that you once believed you rightly owned. Sound somewhat familiar? Now, this isn't just about technology. It's about how technology amplifies human behavior. It is highlighting strengths, but it's also exposing the gaps. And what it's doing is forcing us to confront our biases. For example, if you believe AI is that evil demon that's going to replace jobs, then most likely your biases are going to help you resist it. Now, if you see it on the other hand as an accelerant, there's a good chance that you're probably going to jump on board and try and embrace it. If you perceive yourself as outdated, then you're likely to try and retreat and hide from this evolution. If you see yourself as adaptable, then you're going to look at how you can change. How are you able to evolve? Now, these perceptions shape everything from how you lead your team to how your company innovates. Does that make sense? Hopefully. So let's continue now and break it down even further. How does technology affect leaders just like you? You can probably picture your biases, right? Hopefully, many of you are aware of your biases. One of them could be this over-reliance on your past success. I relied on my strengths. This got me to where I am. Why would I just throw those out the window and look for something new? All right. That's living and hanging on to the past, not adapting, not necessarily opting for being curious and looking to the future. You may have to have a reality check because, as I already mentioned, the skills that you had and the skills that have brought you to where you are now having shorter half-lives. They're really starting to transition, and we need to continuously upskill, reskill. You've probably heard those two words used a lot, but without these, you become very antiquated and you find that you can no longer keep pace. So what's the solution? The solution is to build that growth mindset, not just for yourself, but for your team. And if you can, even influence your company. All right. Growth mindset. It's not only the buzzword. Carol Dweck really nailed it with her book, but it's really about having that willingness to become that lifelong learner. We're going to talk so much about that over the next four series, four masterclasses. So, as I mentioned, it's also about your team. You might be wondering, why my direct reports? Well, because they also have their own biases, right? They're probably fearing becoming obsolete. They need a reality check that AI is speeding up the process, but we also need to maintain that degree of humanity. And what's the action that you can do there? You can foster a team that is curious, one that is looking to continuously evolve through learning, reskilling, upskilling, seeking new challenges. Right? Now, as we've already said, there's more than one force at play today. Longevity is another area that's reshaping our careers, because while tech is speeding up the change, longevity gives us time, right? But it demands more from us. So let's have a look at longevity. You know, we're living longer. That means we're working longer because we're healthier, longer than ever, in fact. Let me just give you a quick example before I go into the detail there. Let me tell you a story about Alex. He'd been in finance for several decades. He'd climbed the ladder from analyst to VP. He'd built his reputation like we all do progressively. He was one of the best. But as always, the villain, something was feeling off. And one day he walked into a meeting and he heard something that changed everything. He heard his boss say that they were piloting an AI tool that automated just about everything he did. Now, the company wasn't replacing him, but it was bringing in a tool through automation, through AI, that could do everything as good, if not better, and faster. So, as you can imagine, Alex left the room feeling somewhat deflated, invisible. Even though he wasn't fired or replaced, he just felt less essential, less worthy. Now, if you've ever felt like Alex, and I'm sure in the current world, there's a number of us that are, you know, your skills are still good, but skills alone are never going to be enough. Today, relevance is something you don't earn once, sorry. It's something that you're going to have to build. And not only build it again, but again and again and again, because your career is now spanning longer. And with that changing rate of reskilling and upskilling, there's a good probability that you're going to shift from the career that you have today to an entirely different career. You might go in and out of the workforce. Yeah. We used to talk about the 3-stage life. Many of us still talk about it, of course. But what does that mean? That means education. So the first phase or first stage was education, right? So we go to school, whether you start in kindergarten, you finish at university, wherever you go, where we have that first period of our life. Then we move into our career, our work life. And that takes us maybe for another 35, 40 years. And then we have the third phase, which is retirement. Well, the bad news is that that three-stage life is now obsolete. It's now a multi-stage life. Because why? Well, as you've heard me say, we're living and working longer than ever. Now, this creates both opportunity as well as pressure. Opportunity to lead with clarity, confidence, courage across many decades. But pressure also to be able to adapt, not just to survive the forces and to survive everything that's reshaping our world, but to thrive. So Alex, after some inner reflection, and we'll give you that opportunity as a result of this masterclass, realized that he couldn't cling to what worked for him yesterday. He needed to reinvent himself, for his team, for his future. And so he started to get curious. He started to ask questions. What version of myself do I want to become next? How can I evolve, not just within my role, but beyond it? And so fast forward to today, Alex pondering, experimenting, reevaluating, maybe multiple times. Today, he's thriving in his new multi-phase career that has now spanned finance, tech industry, as well as becoming an entrepreneur. And today he's helping other people do the same. I can even look at my own career and say this is very similar to my career. So I was both corporate citizen as well as entrepreneur for most of my career, but today I've stepped away from that corporate world entirely, and I'm focusing purely on our own company and expanding our own company, right? And I'm 65. So 65 young, not 65 years old. So being relevant isn't just about standing still, it's about moving forward with intention. Think about this for a moment. Life expectancy has increased dramatically over the past century. Now, you can find out your own statistics. If you look at the ebook, I think we put a chart in there that shows this, that you can see over the past 100 years how much longer we're living. In parallel with that, you can see how much longer people are working. Why? Well, there's the financial requirement, of course, but not only are they having to work, they're able to work because our health span is growing in parallel with our lifespan. In fact, it's one of the drivers that's giving us extended life, is because we're able to live healthier. We understand our bodies better. The medical environment is improving, which is giving us this increase. So there's a statistic around that says 2 to 2.5 years longer every decade is how our lifespan is increasing. So if you're 20 today, I'm 65, there's a good chance that you're going to live around 10 years longer than my average lifespan. Yeah. So over the next 45 years, you can expect an extra 10 years lifespan. Now, there's some predictions that we reach this fast tracking point in this evolutionary curve, and we can actually regenerate the cells within our body. I'm not here to make those types of predictions, but the statistics we're talking about have the data to back them up that show that over the last 100 years, our life expectancy has expanded consistently, more so in the developed countries, but even the underdeveloped countries, we see an increase in life expectancy. So the message here is careers are no longer linear, they're multi-phase journeys. And you as a leader are at the forefront of this change. You're not just managing today, you have to be preparing for tomorrow. And that means reinventing yourself, not once, but repeatedly, again and again. So let's explore how leaders are shifting their mindset from a career ladder to a lifelong journey. Okay. So you can see the slide, the reinvention mindset. This is where it all starts. Leaders like Alex, like myself, if you like, are no longer clinging to the old ways. We're shifting our perspective from career ladder to lifelong journey. And there's a number of major shifts leaders are thinking about. We're just going to talk about or introduce 4 of them. There's more than 4, but here's 4 specifics to start you thinking about it and to give you some perspective around this whole area. So the 4 major shifts that we're talking about: changing companies, changing careers, changing industries or sectors, and then shifting from corporate to entrepreneur, and in some cases, back again, or reverse, maybe entrepreneur to corporate and then entrepreneur, corporate to entrepreneur, or corporate to entrepreneur back to corporate. Now, these aren't separate paths. They're part of the same journey. All right. This is what we're talking about: reinventing ourselves, reinventing our career. Why? Because technology is driving it, because longevity is enabling it, and our mindset is saying, okay, we're going to have to adapt to living in this reality, this new reality, all right? This world of accelerating change, extended careers. The most future-ready leaders are those who aren't resisting change. They're the ones who are out there championing the cause, waving the flag, trying to lead it. Now, in the past, leaders followed a fairly linear path. Now, it hasn't been this way probably for a decade or 2. It's been evolving. But, in my earlier days in the corporate world, it was very much about climbing the corporate ladder. You earned a title, you settled in, developed your expertise, hoped that the promotion would follow, whether it was slightly sideways, diagonal, or vertical, but the general direction was up. It's like watching the stock market over the period. It has its bumps in the road, but specifically over the long period, you're moving up in your career. It's called the corporate ladder. Now, we're shifting from that to something different. We're now shifting to this lifelong journey, and that journey might take many forms. So you might want to explore these 4 major shifts a little bit further. After we complete our masterclass today, you might want to go into a little bit deeper. We'll make this video available for everybody. I know we had to start a little bit early today for those that are just joining. Apologies for that, but we'll make sure the video or the recording of the masterclass is made available to everybody. You have the ebook that accompanies it. So let's dive in to this reinvention mindset and the 4 major shifts that we're looking at. As I mentioned, not the only 4 shifts, but the 4 major ones we're talking about. The first is changing companies. As I said, loyalty to a company no longer guarantees career longevity. Sometimes the best way to grow is to move, and many executives today find fresh energy, they find new perspectives, as well as a sense or a renewed sense of purpose through a strategic external move. There's nothing wrong with internal mobility. It's great, but sometimes the external mobility unlocks real transformation. So when we talk about changing companies, that's essentially what we're talking about and why we're talking about it. The second part, talking about this longevity and changing of mindsets, is that we change careers. So not only moving to another company within our industry, but it's now not uncommon for professionals to have 3 to 5 entirely distinct careers over their lifetime. And as you can imagine, as we stay in the workforce longer and longer, this is going to become even more specifically relevant. So as an example, a finance executive becomes a leadership coach, a marketing or a marketer pivots into tech, yeah, or a healthcare leader moves into educational technology or something along those lines. Reinvention isn't about starting over, It's about building on what you already know. So it's not that we're talking about discarding all of the skills that you've built over your career. That's your foundation. But what we're talking about now is adding skills on top. So ask yourself, what version of myself am I meant to become next? We'll go deeper on that later. Okay. The third shift that we're seeing that's driven through our mindset reinvention is we may look at changing industries. Now, industry knowledge can be learned. Leadership capabilities are portable. Transferable skills such as empathy, strategic thinking, storytelling, systems thinking, these all allow the leader to cross boundaries, to become transdisciplinary in our approach. So we're seeing people moving from manufacturing to fintech, from consulting to sustainability, from whatever it might be. They're using flexibility as their superpower. Now, if you can imagine, if you can lead people through complexity, you can do it anywhere. And it's really just about acquiring the new knowledge to be able to establish yourself in that industry. The fourth shift, as I mentioned, is moving either from corporate to entrepreneur, from entrepreneur to corporate, or maybe you move from corporate entrepreneur back to corporate throughout your career, or vice versa, entrepreneur to corporate back to entrepreneur. Some leaders feel called to step out and build something of their own. Yeah, I've done it throughout my career. Many people I know have done the same. Others return to corporate after running their own businesses. They identify, you know what, I tried it, I found it just wasn't for me. Either way, this kind of transition builds a heck of a lot of resilience. It builds resourcefulness as well as self-awareness. Now, I mentioned earlier about your identity. Your identity isn't tied to a title, although many of us may think that. It's not tied to an organization. Again, we may feel that. It's tied to who you are as a leader, how you choose to show up in the world. So the most future-ready leaders are those that really see themselves not as fixed roles, but as evolving people, evolving beings, if you like. Interesting, huh? We do a whole session on identity and how many identities can you identify that you play, whether you're a father or mother, a brother or sister, husband or wife, whether you're a daughter or son, whether you're the CEO, a captain of a team leader, a project manager. You, in your life, you're going to have many, many titles that provide you with an identity. What we're saying is that's not who you are. It's how you choose to show up in the world is truly your identity. And that's what you're tied to. And during this extended career, during this accelerating, changing world we're living in, you're going to see this identity evolve a lot. All right. So hopefully that gives you a starting point of where we're heading. What I'd like you to do now is just pause and ask yourself these two questions. We're going to continue in a moment, but really just have a break for a moment. Just ask yourself where you are right now. What version of yourself do I want to become? Now, this requires you to look inwardly a little bit, of course, right? Staying relevant, if you joined me at the beginning, you will have heard me say, it isn't about a number of things. In this case, it isn't about understanding change. It's about owning your own path through that change. You've heard the story about Alex I mentioned earlier. Hopefully you've seen how technology moves faster and faster and how longevity is giving you more time. So now it's time for you to turn to those two simple questions, simple but powerful, of course. Where am I now? And of course, this is more than just a question about your current role or your title, which is my point I was trying to make earlier. It's about what skills are still serving you well. What outdated beliefs might you be holding on to? And how do you feel about where you are right now, as well as where you're headed? So this is really your moment to take stock, not just professionally, but personally. Why is this important? Because if you don't know where you stand right at this moment, it's going to be really hard for you to plan your next steps. And as you'll see when we get a little bit further into this masterclass, the next step is the next question that we'll be asking. So that's question one. Where am I now? The second question is, what version of myself do I want to become? And this is not just about setting a 5-year goal. It's about asking, who do I want to be in the next chapter of my life, the next chapter of my career? And am I clinging to what's safe, to something that I already know and understand? Or am I ready to evolve? Are you leading from past experience or through a mindset of curiosity, looking to learn and grow? Are you defining relevance by your past, or are you designing that relevance for your future? So I know they seem like simple questions, but as you can hear, there's a lot that you can be building and developing and asking yourself behind those two simple questions. So this is where leadership, if you like, really meets that identity, and where reinvention truly begins. So I invite you, I'm going to pause momentarily. You will be able to pause. I'm going to keep going, but for the sake of this recording, we can imagine that we're pausing just for a moment and allowing you to reflect on these two questions. Where am I now? What version of myself do I want to become? And then when we come back, we're going to jump into the next half of this masterclass. All right. Imagine we've paused. You can hit the stop button. You can restart when you're ready. For those that joined us a little bit later, you'll be able to watch this recording. We'll provide you with a copy of the recording so you can catch up on that first part that you missed. But if you did join us later and you listen to us now, then you'll be able to, you will have missed my introduction on a new program we're introducing, which is called the Referral program. This is something I'm extremely proud of. It's where we offer you a dream vacation. We offer the person that you refer a dream vacation as well. So 2 separate dream vacations, all for a very meager amount when that person you refer enrolls for one of our virtual masterminds. if you go to the link you can see on the bottom of your screen, you'll be able to read the landing page that gives you a little bit more details where you'll be able to make that register or that referral, and both become eligible provided the person you refer then enrolls into our virtual mastermind. But I don't want to go into all the nitty gritty. You'll be able to read more about it yourself. But I'm extremely proud of this program because it does offer you so much. Not only are we providing additional education, but it's also rewarding you for this initiative. So please take the time, have a read. The holidays, by the way, are valued at up to $1,000 for each of them. Now you can take your family, I believe it's up to 2 adults, 2 children, away to more than 100 locations around the world. You get to choose. You'll go to a website, you'll choose your location, then they'll show you the hotels that are participating in the program. We don't have any influence over it. We're working with another group to make this available to you, but it is an incredible offer, incredible opportunity. So, and I'm really proud to be able to bring it as part of our referral program. Okay, commercial over. We're halfway through. Let's jump into the frameworks. We call frameworks that work. Now, what's it about? Well, the first half is where we introduce the reasoning behind this discussion and the importance for staying relevant. We spoke about 3 key areas. We spoke about technology is changing our environment faster than ever before. We talked about longevity, how we're living longer, and therefore our careers are expanding and moving beyond what is today traditionally the mid-60s, now moving, in many cases, people are working till they're 70, even beyond 70. The projection going forward by the mid-century, point in this 21st century, is that people will be working till the mid-70s and maybe even moving into the 80s. And so with those 2 factors, the third element that we introduced was we really need to be adaptable and flexible and adopting a reinvention mindset. And Carol Dweck, the author of Growth Mindset, the book, the term is synonymous with lifelong learning. The term is synonymous about continuously reinventing ourselves. And that's what we have to be able to do in this relevance topic, because we need to reinvent to stay relevant. So that's the direction we're coming from. Now in the second half of this masterclass, we're talking about, and by the way, we're talking about leadership. We're talking about you as leaders in this masterclass. So you'll be able to understand the why, a little bit about the what. Now we're going to move into the how. Right? Flexibility, by the way, is now deemed as your leadership superpower. So let's take a closer look at that first, and then we'll move into the framework. So as you can well imagine, flexibility is an absolute. It's not just about adaptability, right? But we want to be intentional. So as we evolve, we want to be flexible, we want to be curious, but we want to be looking forward. We don't want to be waiting for that change to happen to us, and therefore we're reactionary. We want to be intentional. We want to be we want to be changing to the environment intentionally, yeah, not because we have to. And there's 3 powerful ideas I'd like to just leave with you in this short introduction about flexibility and how you can harness flexibility. Because flexibility isn't about starting over. We already said it's about building on what you already know. You don't need to abandon everything that you've learned. In fact, your past experience is your foundation, as I mentioned. It's not enough to rest on what worked yesterday, however, you have to build on it. And how do you do that? You have to become curious. You're going to need to be courageous, and you're going to have to seek clarity. Think about it. What skills have served you well so far? Yeah. How can you layer new capabilities on top of those skills? And how can you be intentional about those capabilities so that you evolve to where you want to be, not because you have to evolve to survive? So you evolve to thrive, not just to survive. The second area is the transferability of skills allows you as the leader to step across boundaries. You know, many leaders aren't tied to one industry or role anymore. They use transferable skills like I mentioned earlier, emotional intelligence, strategic thinking, communication, problem solving. These are skills that are portable. They have this multiplier effect. They allow you to move across companies, change careers, change industries, and even shift from being a corporate employee to your own domain as an entrepreneur. Here we go again. But relevance isn't about staying in one place. It's about leading from anywhere. Now, the third area on how you can become more flexible is by becoming that entrepreneur, it will teach you about resilience, about resourcefulness, and about self-awareness. So if you do shift from the corporate to the entrepreneurship, don't see it as a detour. It's a form of leadership development as well. Why? Because it forces you to think creatively under pressure. There is no better test for your mental challenges than to try your hand at becoming an entrepreneur. It's an entirely different world for all of you that are corporate leaders. It forces you to think creatively under pressure. It teaches you how to pivot when the plans change. And isn't that our life today? It also deepens your understanding of yourself and what drives you. So entrepreneurship isn't just about startups. It's about owning your own path. And that's a superpower that every leader really needs. Final thought on the flexibility topic. Flexibility really isn't optional anymore. It's essential. Why? Because in our world of accelerating change, of extended careers, the most future-ready leaders aren't those who can resist change. They're the ones who lead. Now, I know I'm repeating myself, but these messages are worth repeating, right? You will hear me say some things multiple times. Why? Because the more I say it, the better chance it has of sticking. So ask yourself, think about this again. How can I build on what I already know? What boundaries am I ready to cross? And when was the last time I stepped outside my comfort zone? So there's three great questions to take away, keep them fresh in your mind. Think about it. How can I build on what I already know? What boundaries am I ready to cross? And when was the last time that I stepped outside my comfort zone? All right. Well, it's time to explore the first of our frameworks. In fact, this provides a framework in itself, and it's called the Reinvention spiral. It's a very simplistic spiral-looking diagram, surprise, surprise. And we have 5 steps within this process. So let's talk about how to turn the insight you have into action. Right? We've given you the why and the what. That's the insight. How do we turn that into how? How do we take action? Why? Because relevance doesn't happen by action, it happens by design. Okay, so one of the most effective tools that I'm aware of for intentional growth is this reinvention spiral. Don't let its simplicity deceive you. Think of it as a cycle, and it's one that you're going to be able to use again and again to stay relevant. In fact, we recommend that every 1 to 2 years in this current world that we live in is a good time frame to reuse this particular tool. So it consists of 5 stages. The first one, pause and assess. Where am I now? Remember that question. Where am I now? This is the first step. It's all about self-awareness. Where are you right now in your role, your mindset, your skills? Ask yourself what's still working, what's shifting, what outdated beliefs might be holding me back. It's not about judgment, by the way, it's about gaining clarity. It's not about being hard and critical of yourself. It's about understanding, becoming aware that these beliefs may be shackling you to where you are now. They may not everyone's the same, but they may well be, right? So they're going to give you clarity. Where do you stand? If you don't know, it's very difficult to plan where you want to go to from here. Once you've done that, the second step is clarity of purpose. Now, we're speaking to leaders, and so the question that we're asking is, why do you want to lead? And from that point, how does that connect to my purpose or to your purpose? Why do you lead? What drives you beyond the titles or maybe the salary, the package, the compensation? What are your values, your motivations, and what's the sense of impact that you're looking to have that's going to shape your next steps more than you think? Change can often feel overwhelming, but it's less overwhelming when we have clarity of purpose because our purpose becomes our compass. So once you can identify where are you right now, you've paused, you started to assess where am I right now, you've got some feeling around who you are, your identity, then you question your purpose. You get clear about your purpose. Why is it that you're a leader? What's this leadership element got to do with my purpose? How do they tie together? Why is it important? Because this becomes your North Star, your guiding light. Then the third step, and this is the step that often gets overlooked. I'm just going to pause and have a drink. The third step is to experiment and learn. Now, at this stage, many career coaches and people, mentors, other people will suggest that really now is the time where you have to sit back and reflect about the new things you want to introduce. Well, the problem we see with that is that reflection is about past experience. And if you're looking to change something based on past experience, the likelihood is the thing you decide to do will be very similar to what you're currently doing because that's the limitation of your mind. So we suggest that you identify, brainstorm, if you like, a whole raft of different areas, narrow it down to the things that most interest you, be as diverse as you like, the more diverse, the better, in fact, but really hone into, several that hold strong interest for you. Maybe you've had a hobby in something, maybe you've watched somebody you admire from afar and always wanted or thought what it would be like to move into that industry, whatever it might be that you identify, find ways that you can then experiment, try these new things, and then whether it may even be you have to do a short course, right? You may have to go out and learn some new skills. But the aim is so that you can get exposure to those areas before you jump, before you say, okay, this is what I want to do. And I'm going to go in boots and all. I'm going to make this transition. I'm going to make it successful. And then what we see a lot of people do is they make that transition, and within 12 months, 2 years, they're back to where they were. It wasn't the right choice. It's something that didn't stand the test of time. What they thought they were passionate about becomes nothing more than another job with another title, working long hours, and you're back with the same degree of dissatisfaction that you had that led you to making that jump in the first place. So what we're talking about with experimenting and learning is trying new things, right? So as I said, maybe you have to acquire some new skills, do it while you're still working wherever you are, so that you're building towards this transition. Unless you are extremely confident, we would recommend you take this gradual transition. Maybe you even take a short sabbatical and you go and test out this new field for a month or so while you're on sabbatical. If your current job will allow you to do that, maybe you can shadow somebody outside your field. Maybe you can get the qualifications you need and you can start practicing. A lot of people go into coaching today. You can certainly do all of this preparation work and start coaching other people while you're still employed, right? So you can volunteer for projects outside your comfort zone to really test you, whatever it might be. It's not about you having all the answers at this moment. This is about you being willing to explore, to experiment, to go outside of what you traditionally would feel comfortable doing, if that's the direction you're that you feel being pulled, you're being pulled towards. And then once you've had that experience, pause again and learn from what just happened. What was my takeaway? Was it everything I expected? Were there some unexpected learnings that came out of it? Think longer term. Is this really going to evolve into what I'm hoping for? Right? Now, you may want to do that multiple times. Depending on your circumstance, there is no one solution here. But if you have the opportunity to experiment and learn, to try new things, then you're going to be in a far stronger position as you look at reinventing yourself than if you just make the one jump, because the likelihood is that you will reflect on what you've done in the past, and then you're going to move in a similar direction because that's what you're comfortable with, right? So there is a time for reflection, and it's after you've done your experimenting, right? So you then move to the fourth phase, which is where you reflect. What did you learn about yourself, your team, or your new team, your new environment, the new company, the business you wanted to start up, whatever it might be? Yeah. What worked? What was better than you expected? What was surprising that you didn't anticipate? And what were the learnings that came out of that, that you can now turn into wisdom and use the wisdom as your fuel to make the next move? Right? So now you're making it with some real intelligence behind what up until that point was just gut reaction or gut feel. Right? And then when you're ready, reintegrate, launch, apply, share, take what you've learned, put it into action, apply it to your new role, and make that bigger shift. And importantly, keep sharing what you've learned. Right? One of the reasons for sharing is because as you're growing, you want others to grow as well. As a leader, I'm sure you've all heard it's not just about growing yourself, it's about helping others to grow as well. I've been blessed in my career to have many mentors, many coaches, many advisors. I still do today. And one of the blessings of that is that as they evolved, I was able to grow through their lessons. As I then put my own efforts into practice and shared my lessons back with them, shared my lessons with people in my team, it also helped them grow. Yeah. So the beauty of the reinvention spiral is that it's not linear. It's cyclical, right? You never return to the same place. You're evolving, because it's a spiral, you're evolving upwards and you're doing it with intention. Remember I said it earlier, we want to be intentional. Part of being flexible is that it gives us that ability to be intentional. So here's your invitation, I should say, that try it, right? Pause, assess where you are. We're going to talk about this more again towards the end. Right? Clarify where you are today and how that fits in with your purpose, what you're thinking about doing, how that might fit in with your purpose, your values, your motivations, and then look at every 1 or 2 years coming back to this situation and going through the exercise again. Remember, we're launching forward. We're always trying to keep moving forward. We're going to do it, though, by being refreshed with a sense of renewal and a sense of readiness because we're doing it intentionally. All right, so there's our framework. Now, there's a couple of tools, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail with these tools. You've probably heard of them. The learning loop, we use the PDCA model. It's all about continuous improvement. It comes out of the quality field, as you probably know. But we use it in the form of it being a learning loop. So plan, what do we want to learn? Do, we try it out. Then we check, did it work? What did I learn? And then we act again, adjust and improve, right? And it's a loop. Yeah? So relevance in this case isn't about knowing everything. It's about being willing to keep learning. It's that mindset shift. It's that growth mindset. It's that continuous lifelong learning that we're talking about. Yeah? We're no longer able to know everything. Technology is changing our world so rapidly that we can't keep up as an individual. Highly improbable. Yeah? And therefore, we need to be intentional about where do we want to be, what do we want to be doing, and maybe that's going to change multiple times throughout your career. Hence the concept of longevity. Yeah? So this PDCA model, the learning loop, helps you keep that in mind, right? So you have your spiral, your reinvention spiral. You've done your evaluation. You're going to do your experimentation. I would use this during the experimentation. Plan what I want to learn, try it. Did it work? What did I learn? And then adjust and improve. In this case, experiment, learn, make the transition if that's what you choose, or otherwise identify that's not what I thought it would be. Glad I didn't jump. I'm going to try something different and then go through the process again. Now, one of the things that's very underutilized is this 70-20-10 model. It's really a learning model. And it's an interesting model because you can look at it from multiple lenses. So the way that it's traditionally addressed is by saying we have this chunk of our work life where, and it's the largest chunk, 70%, where we learn by doing. Now, this is real world experience. This is the day-to-day tasks, activities that we're engaged in. Now, that tends to be a very informal, impromptu way of learning. Yeah? I'm sure you can all picture, you go to work, the boss gives you a new job. During that period, you may learn some new skills. Maybe you have to collaborate with somebody else. And through the experience, you're actually learning these skills. Nobody is standing over your shoulder, giving you guidance. It's the learning that you're taking out of it yourself. You're internalizing, you're analyzing, you're putting it into practice. Now, that traditionally is what happens. Then there's a smaller portion, which is where we are learning with the assistance of others, but it's somehow formalized, but it's not what we call formal learning, right? It could be where we have a feedback system. Maybe, heaven forbid, you work in a company that has 6 monthly reviews, performance reviews, and you get feedback from your boss, right? Or maybe there's a mentoring program where you go and you engage with a mentor every couple of weeks or month or a couple of months. And you learn in a semi-structured formal process through the feedback, through your mentors, maybe it's coaching, but it's an intentional learning opportunity. And then the smallest portion by far is that formal education. Whether you work in a company where they provide you with internal training, you have a learning department perhaps under HR or whatever, they provide you opportunities to do micro learning or learning nuggets externally, maybe on some of the learning platforms like Udemy, like Coursera, like LinkedIn Learning. You know, there's many out there today, right? Or through your internal learning management system. Yeah. Now that's the traditional method, all of which provide you with opportunities to learn, to grow, all great. What we suggest is, as part of this reinvention spiral, is that the learning by doing, being your largest chunk, is probably the area where you can apply this reinvention spiral, where you can say, you know what, I'm going to do some other stuff that helps me reinvent myself, that I can learn by doing, to get experience, first-hand experience, not just by studying it, although I may have to study, but not just by studying it, not just by learning through other people, but through my own first-hand experience. Think about the spiral. Where am I today? All right, pause and assess. What's my purpose? Ask the questions, make sure you know your North Star. And then identify the things that you're really passionate about outside of your job at the moment and experiment. Get your hands dirty. And that can be within this 70% component, right? So that's how we introduce this in terms of reinventing you and using this model. Okay. So hopefully that makes some sense. I'm not going to go too deep into those two areas today. The next one that I do want to introduce is the skill stack strategy. It's helping you build your leadership edge. As I've said, relevance isn't about knowing everything. In this particular tool's case, it's about stacking what matters. Now, we've asked the question already. Think of the skills like your building block. Yeah? And over time, you've developed these capabilities based on that 70-20-10 model. You've developed those capabilities through your experience, through your training, through your expertise. And here's the truth though. Some of those skills are still powerful, while there's others that are fading in value. And some you may not even realize that you have. And that's where the skill stack strategy really comes into its own. So you want to build your portfolio of complementary skills. Step one. You don't need to be the best at one thing. You know, there's always been this old debate. Should I specialize or should I be a generalist? Well, today it's tending to lean towards that generalist. It's tending to say, you know what, if you can combine several of the areas that you're good at, and you can combine them into something unique, your skill stack can become like your personal toolkit. You take those core skills you already own, whether that's you're a great strategizer, you're the operations manager from the heavens, you're a finance guru, whatever your skills are, and you stack them, right? And then you look at the adjacent skills that really enhance your value around those core skills, whether that's storytelling, whether it's systems thinking, whether it's, I don't know, emotional intelligence. And then the third thing you do is you take some emerging skills. These are additional things, but they align with the future needs and they stack on top of those things you've already identified. So whether it's AI literacy, whether it's change management, whatever it might be, these are skills that you can develop further that are going to help you in the future. Skill stack strategy. Together, they create a leadership advantage. No single certification or degree is going to match it. You're going to be able to swap the outdated skills that you will have identified with the emerging ones, right? Just like technology evolves, so too does your skill set need to evolve. So you want to ask yourself, what skills have I used 5 years ago? Maybe still today, but are they valuable today? And what do I need to let go of? What am I carrying that's weighing me down that I need to unlearn, to let go of? And what should I be adding? Yeah. So swap the outdated skills for new skills that you need to bring on board. Many of you, or some of you, maybe many is an overstatement, but some of you will have in the past 10 years gone down the path of learning how to code. You know, computer coding, programming. As we moved and evolved through technology, was all the rage. Everybody was suggesting, do a degree in computer programming, get your level of understanding of it. Now, was it the right thing? Was it the wrong thing? I don't know. All that I can tell you is that we're moving to a point where AI seems to be doing a lot of that work for us. So that's your foundation. What do I need to let go of that might be holding me back in place of being able to learn something new about AI that I can add on to that foundation that's going to help propel me forward towards that future? Yeah. Hopefully that makes some sense. And then the third thing is create that hybrid of capabilities that really differentiate you. So those future-ready leaders, and hopefully some of you listening are future-ready leaders, they're not just specialists. They have this generalist perspective, this hybrid of skills, skills across disciplines. Now, it's insurmountable. It may seem insurmountable. There are so many different skills out there. Only you can be the one that's really going to decide which is the right hybrid of skills that I need, that's going to satisfy my purpose, that's going to provide fulfillment of my desires, my passion, my energy, right? It could be that you want to become a finance leader who also understands digital transformation. It could be that you want to be a marketer who can speak data fluently. I don't know. Engineer who leads with empathy, not discrediting my friends who are engineers, saying that you're not empathetic. You understand my point I have, right? But the capabilities, these hybrid capabilities, make you not just useful, but uniquely valuable. And the best part, you don't need to master every new skill. You just need to layer them thoughtfully to build that future. So the final thought here is, as we wrap up this particular session, right, on the framework and the tools, don't just project what you know, build on it. Your career is not a static resume. It's a living portfolio, right? And the skill stack strategy gives you the power to go out there and design it. Heck, redesign it as many times as you need to. So ask yourself, what's my current skill stack? What should I keep? What should I drop? What should I add next? Why? The most relevant leaders aren't born, they're built one skill at a time. I like that expression. All right. With that said, let's now move into your personal reinvention plan. We're getting towards the end. I'm going to move through this a little bit quicker so we don't run over time. But your personal reinvention plan, I'm not going to go through this in detail. You'll have the opportunity to reach out to us and get some more information, as you'll see shortly. But let's just think about it. We've asked you the first two questions already, and it's now really your turn. You can start by creating the first draft of your reinvention plan, if you like. Here's your reflection prompts. Where am I now? What might expand on this by asking, well, you might want to expand on it, right? You could say, where am I now? What do I mean by that? Well, what skills are still serving me well? What skills might be fading? What kind of environment helps me thrive? The second question you might want to ask is, what version of myself do I want to become? So, in other words, what kind of leader do I want to be in 2 to 3 to 5 years? What values are guiding my decision making, my choices? And could I see myself changing companies, changing industries, or even stepping into becoming an entrepreneur? And then once you've sort of got that clarity, the final question is, what can I do in the next 30, 60, 90 days to take one small step? And who can support me along the way? It's much, much better to do it with somebody else by your side than feeling that you're doing this in isolation. One way you can always do this, right, is to reach out to a friend and share with them what you're thinking about and ask them if they will be your accountability buddy. Ask them if they will come on the journey with you when you need them to give you that moral support, to give you the feedback, to be your sounding board. I'm sure you'll find many friends who are more than willing to and eager to jump in and help you with that. We're going to wrap up now. There'll be many questions, I know, and I can't see your questions at the moment. If people have been typing questions, I apologize for that. I'm not looking at the Zoom chat. I can only see my presentation in front of me. So I will, if you have asked questions, and I'm not ignoring them by any means, I will record them and we will respond to those questions after this recording. So don't feel discouraged. Hang in there. So just to remind you, if you didn't join us at the beginning, this is the first of 4 masterclasses under this staying relevant topic. Today was all about talking about leadership, you, the leader, and how do you stay relevant. What we've touched on is we've touched on the why and the what you need to stay relevant. We said technology is creating change like we've never seen before. Maybe you could argue that, the Industrial Revolution was a similar period. I believe it's even more change specific and going to impact us in a much bigger way than the Industrial Revolution. But regardless, we're experiencing exponential change. It's going to continue. That's one reason. Another reason is that we're living longer and we need to learn how to live in this multi-phase life, no longer a 3-stage life of education, career, retirement. Because of this longevity and because of improved health, we're actually going to be working longer, partly out of need, because we'll need the finance to be able to sustain that longevity, but also because we'll be evolving in our careers more often. So these are all the whys. Then in the second part, we've introduced some tools that you can use, the reinvention spiral. Of course, to use the tools, you need that reinvention mindset and understand the flexibility aspect. But we then gave you some tools, the reinvention spiral. We briefly introduced the learning loop using the PDCA model. We introduced the 70-20-10 model, which is really giving you an understanding of how we learn. And then most recently, we spoke about the skill stack strategy, about letting go of the things you're no longer using, keeping those things you are using as your foundation, and choosing intentionally future specific skills that are going to help propel you forward. All right, so that's a skill stack strategy. That's what today's been all about. As you can see, we have 3 more masterclasses under this series banner of staying relevant. The next one is future-proofing organization. So if you're a leader of an organization, whether a small company, a small business, a large organization, whether you're involved in HR, this is going to be extremely relevant for you. If you're a leader and you want to understand how the organization could adapt itself, what needs to happen is also going to be relevant for you. After that masterclass, we're then going to look at how talent systems need to be set up to accommodate this longer work life, where we're working into the 70s, maybe in some cases into our 80s. And then finally, within our mindset shift, within the organizations that we're supporting or running or building, the spread of people working longer and longer is going to grow. And it's forecast to become a $15 trillion industry. How can you start to understand this and tap into some of that? Prepare for this evolution that's already underway and is only going to increase. All right, so I'll leave you with this final thought. You don't need to know everything to move forward. You just need to take the first step. And that first step could be taking a short course. It could be talking to someone from a different industry. It could be reflecting honestly about where you are, where you want to be. The world is changing rapidly. We're living through extended period life expectancy. Most important skill that you can cultivate is your ability to keep becoming, right? To keep evolving, to keep learning, to have that growth mindset. All right. Now, we're putting together a future-proof executive curriculum. This will be fully self-learning, so it won't be supported. There will be some support, but the majority of it will be you will learn at your own pace. It'll be micro-learning. You'll be able to go online and work through each of the 15 or 16 different small nuggets, topics, if you like, that we're putting together in this future-proof curriculum. Yeah, so we're looking to launch this in August. We won't have, all of the modules ready by then, but if you're interested, you can find out more by connecting with us. We'll have some information up on our website very soon, but if you're interested, part of the reinventing yourself is to keep learning, to become a lifelong learner. Important to be intentional about what you're learning. Hence the reason we're giving you this smorgasbord of topics so you can choose the ones that are relevant to you. All right, so keep an eye out for it. We have this reinvention planner, so if you're interested, have a look at it. You'll need to reach out to us. The link's on the next slide, but reach out to us, tell us you would like to learn more about this reinvention planner, and we will then more than happily share some information with you. And where can you reach out to us? You can see the link on the bottom of this page. So team, we have a community that you can join if you want to stay talking with like-minded individuals, talking about staying relevant. If you want to be in a like-minded community, then again, reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to talk with you about that. All right, for the final time, referral program, I'm not going to talk about it anymore. Please have a look at our website, have a look at our landing page. It begins 1st of July. It's as simple as referring a friend. That friend then enrolls in one of our virtual mastermind programs. We have 5 different ones. We offer them twice a year, each one twice a year. They enroll for it. That enrollment then unlocks a whole window of gifts, might be the best word. One of the gifts is that both parties, you the referrer plus the person you referred, each receive a holiday, a paid holiday, not the airfare, but the accommodation, up to $1,000. With different duration depending on the country you choose, the hotels you stay at, etc. But all the information, it's not run by us, it's run by another party. We just have access to it. We're offering it as part of our referral program. I'm pretty stoked about it. Hopefully you will be as well. But please have a look at the website, have a look at our referral program landing page, and you'll learn more. What's coming up in July? We have 2 more campaigns coming up in July. First up is our 2-day challenge, talking this time about facilitation mastery or mastering facilitation. We introduced the first 2 phases of 5 phases in mastering facilitation. And then at the end of the month, we have a virtual mastermind, one of those 5 virtual masterminds for the second time this year. This is called Mastering Success Behaviors. Again, you can go to our website. You can find out more information about these. So that's it from us, team. Thank you for being with us. I know it's been a rushed 90 minutes. I apologize for those who missed the first half hour thinking that we were starting at 3. We have to alter that. I apologize. We will make sure that you get the recording so you can see the first half hour. For those that did join us from the beginning, thank you. Until next time, as I said, if you've put questions in the chat window, we'll be very happy to answer them. Until next time, though, thank you. All the best. Stay safe. Bye for now.
So what are you waiting for? Hit the subscribe button below and click on the bell icon so I can pop up in your feed occasionally with a great tip for your ultimate growth.